Hey, you're listening to Stop the Scroll, a social media marketing podcast, and I'm your host, Heidi Schmidt. I'm a social media strategist and agency owner with over 15 years of marketing experiences helping businesses grow online. We'll be diving into what you need to know so that you can show up confidently online without the overwhelm. Get your notebook ready to jot down some amazing marketing gems, and let's dive into it. What is up, my friends? Welcome back to another episode of Stop the Scroll. I am your host, Heidi Schmidt, social media manager and strategist, and I work with a lot of service-based industries. And I've also worked in some really tough industries. And by tough, I mean, what the heck do you create content about? Like, there are businesses that I think are easier to create content for than others. And today I'm coming at you, so notebooks ready, with some content ideas for quote unquote boring industries. However, these ideas are applicable to pretty much anyone. Like, if you're ever struggling for what the heck do I post on social media, like, here are some ideas. And these are kind of evergreen, so they are relevant any time of year. And I've got to tell you, so I have a couple of clients who are defense contractors, government contractors, and sometimes because we can't necessarily talk about what they do, sometimes it is really, really hard to come up with content ideas. So a lot of this stems from kind of the strategy behind their work, showing off their company culture, because we know that that's a big differentiator. One of their goals is, recruiting. So some of this is relevant to that. So we're going to start with kind of some of the brand awareness content and educational content. And educational is really good because it's really, really, it can be keyword heavy. And we know that social media likes keywords these days because, the youths are all searching like they use Google on social media. That's how they find all their fun shit. So create how-to guides, the tutorials. Say you're like an HVAC company. Listen, HVAC company is not sexy. It's not fun, but you know what? It is functional. Plumbing companies, you can create guides on how to fix common household leaks. Listen, you want the people like me who just spent $4,000 on hot water heaters. You don't want to be wasting your time on like little tiny leaks, right? So give that how-to content to make someone feel confident. We have our house. Sometimes I'm like, you're bleeding money house. But like, and it's like the little things that just kind of like make you feel like, ugh, if it's not one thing, it's another. The outdoor faucet leaking, things like that. And that's not even a problem that we have anymore. But kind of talking about those common problems that people might see. And, if you're more B2B, think about the questions that your sales team gets. And this is always something that like I have coached clients on for years, dating back to my former agency days. Like, what are the questions that your sales team gets? Because that's what people are searching for. That's what they want to know. And this gives you the opportunity to create blog content. And then it gives you the opportunity to create social media content off of that. So I always say, if you're going to repurpose content, repurpose the big stuff. Like, don't repurpose the little stuff. I mean, you can repurpose like good social media captions into like emails, but really like start big, start like big picture, and then move to like smaller picture. Along those lines, educational content, give your take on what's going on in the industry insights and trends. Give your expert opinion. Is there any forecasts? Like, are there trends? Like, I know for most social media managers, we always do hey, these are the trends to watch out for in the year ahead at the end of the year. I'm usually like a month late on that shit, but whatever. An accounting firm might discuss the latest tax law changes. I have a friend, former client, who is an HR advisor, and she's been talking a lot about like law changes to employment law that impact HR departments. So look at what's going on in the news, the trends, the changes in your industry, and talk about them. That is easy content. And your audience, like, it might not be the most engaging content. You might not get 100 likes on an Instagram post about that, but it's going to be helpful, and your audience they're going to enjoy it. It's going to be helpful to them. Helpful doesn't always equal engaging. Let's be clear. And engaging, helpful doesn't always garner the most likes. Let's also be clear about that too. But likes don't matter. I still say that. Instagram says otherwise. A lot of social media managers say otherwise. Obviously, you want to be tracking your engagement. You want to know that people value your content, but your social media strategy does not win or fail based on the number of likes that a single post gets. Let's just be clear. Let's just put that out there. A couple of posts not getting any engagement is not the end all be all of your social media strategy. There are lessons to take away for sure, but don't say that your social media strategy is totally failing. Moving on. Show the behind the scenes content. We know as social media managers, as a social media manager and social media strategist, I know that the behind the scenes content, when you talk about what happens in a typical day, highlighting the different people in your company, showing the behind the scenes. For a couple of years, I worked with an amazing company that manufactured paint. We created some reels about filling bottles, and that people ate that ish up. They loved it. Mixing paint colors, that kind of stuff, showing the behind the scenes process. If you're a manufacturer, show the production process, whatever you can. Spotlight your employees, share their stories. What are they doing outside the office? Are they involved in the community? Some of my government contracting clients have showcased some of the amazing things that their employees have done out in the community, some organizations that they're involved with. What do they do? Do they fundraise for an organization? Do they support? Someone had a woman who trained therapeutic courses. Who knew? Who knew? But people engaged with that. Employee spotlights are always, always, always a win. And they really bring that humanizing factor because ultimately, when you share the behind the scenes content, you're just seeking that connection with your audience. You're not trying to sell them anything. It's really there solely for connection, right? And we know that people don't always like to be sold to on social media. Build the trust. Build some trust building content. Share some customer testimonials. Go into your Google page, grab a testimonial, share it. Highlight, if you are a cleaning service, maybe show some before and afters. I mean, gosh, if my cleaning company that I use needed a before and after, go right ahead. I'll make sure my son leaves all of his wrappers all of his snack wrappers all over the couch. I should have taken a picture today because they came the day that I'm recording this. And literally, I don't know what they did, but I looked on the floor next to our sofa and I was so disgusted. And I was like, God, my son is such a slob. He's 11. He's 11. He's at that age. And whatever. There's some neurodivergence there. So he doesn't always notice these things. He doesn't pick up on, the social normities of always picking up after yourself. It's a thing. But talking about those transformations, those successful projects, services, stories of your happy customers, all that kind of stuff, you know what that does? That builds trust. That shows a track record of success. And they're qualifiers, people want to see that kind of stuff. So share the testimonials, share the 5-star reviews. Similarly along the line to what we said about how-to guides, I would also say talk about the FAQs and the common questions. Give clear, informative answers. One thing that people don't talk about a lot is how much it costs. What does it cost? So for example, maybe a pest control company can answer common questions about pest prevention. How do you, God, we had a pest control, there are mice in our basement and I don't know if we've gotten rid of them all. I think we have put out some traps. We've caught in a couple. I haven't seen any signs of them lately, but when the guy came out, he was so helpful and he gave so much great information. Think about what you do on kind of those consultation calls. What kind of questions do you answer? I have another client who's another government contractor and they do a lot of RFPs. And so she's literally sent over some questions that they get, follow-up questions with answers. And she's like, some of these questions might make good content. Evergreen. Sure, absolutely. If there's ever a week that we're hurting for content, 100% we'll use this. 100%. Find the fun and engaging opportunities. Are there contests that you can do? Can you create quizzes? Can you do a myth busting, An example that I thought of today, because I was doom scrolling on TikTok. There's a creator on there who is a former mortician. And if you know who I'm talking about, you know who I'm talking about. But she's debunked a lot of myths about the whole like funeral home mortician process. It's fascinating to me. But find what people have misconceptions about in your industry and debunk them. Tell the truth. Here's what actually happens, Your funeral home, here's what actually happens when you die. This is what we do. Here's the actual cremation process. Blah, blah, blah. Whatever it is, people like that stuff. And it can be fun and it can be engaging. And if you're looking to build your brand awareness, like if that is your goal on social media, finding that engaging content that's digestible, that's shareable, that's the kind of stuff that you want to be creating. And again, it doesn't always have to be lead generating. It doesn't always have to be salesy. There's a way to do salesy content on social media without specifically being like, grab my link or comment below to get the guide, blah, blah, blah. Like, you don't always have to be selling. And maybe I'll do another episode coming up about like calls to action that aren't specifically selling, because I feel like a lot of us kind of get in our own heads and we feel like you have to make the direct ask. You do not. And not every post. And I recently had this in an interview and I can't remember. I don't know if maybe it's been published. Maybe it hasn't been. Might be the next episode. But one of the things that came up in our conversation is our viewers and our followers are smarter than we give them credit for. If they want to work with us, we don't have to tell them to in a call to action. So not every post needs a call to action. Hot take right there. Finally, how are you in the community? What are you doing? Are there collaborations with other businesses and organizations that you have? Are there events? Do you support nonprofits in the community? Like, what are some of the charitable activities and social responsibility that you're doing? If you do it, I hope you do. But look at how your company is involved in the community and highlight that. And again, if the company's not, then maybe your team is. I have another client who they have an adopt a road, and every couple months they go out and they do a big cleanup and they send pictures, and it's among some of the best performing content. People really like seeing the team out and about in the community. Like, it's not all about you. How are you giving back? I think people care about that these days. So if you have other business partnerships, like maybe you did an event, maybe you've been on a podcast, those are also great collaborations and partnerships that you can share on your social media. And it gives you the bonus opportunity of tagging other businesses. I have one client who's all about tagging all of her industry friends on LinkedIn, but it's worked. Her following has grown like 1,500% since I started working with her like 3 years ago. Literally, she started with like 100 followers. And a lot of that's been a manual process, like inviting people, connecting with people, but also like tagging businesses, tagging the people that she encounters at some of the industry events that she goes to that we post about, has been a really big way to expand that brand recognition for her. So I encourage you to jot these down and try them. And I just posted a reel the other day that basically said, like, you do not need to post every day. Like, especially if you're like, God, I don't know what to post. Shoot for a goal of like 2 to 3 times a week, especially if you're just getting started out, like 2 to 3 times a week, because that's less overwhelming. Make one of them maybe like a post that has the goal of talking about your services, another one that's kind of talking about behind the scenes, and then another one that's kind of educational. There is no reason why every post has to have the purpose of just selling. And I'm going to end right there. But if you need support, this is what my strategy sessions are for. We can come up with content ideas for you. We can review how things are performing, anything you want. It's kind of an ask me anything 90-minute session. If you're done doing your social media, like we have one spot for August, and then we're not accepting clients again until September. So get on the wait list if you're interested. Set up a call with me. I'd love to chat. Love to chat about your goals, all that kind of fun stuff. Finally, as always, I love connecting with listeners on Instagram. Connect with me there at Heidi Schmidt Creative. Connect with me on Facebook. Same at Heidi Schmidt Creative on Facebook. LinkedIn. It's in the show notes. And as always, if you're interested in setting up a call, learning more about our services, what we offer, visit me on the web, www.heidijschmidt.com. And until next time, I hope these tips were helpful. Go forth, fill out your content calendar, and go create content that stops the scroll. Till next time.